Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Fishman. I'm the Transfer Admissions Advisor in the Office of Admissions at Purchase College. Alongside of me, we do have our Director of Humanities, and her name is Aviva Tobinfield. And we also have our Department Chair of Communication, Megan Rossman, with us. So welcome and hello, everyone. I'm really excited to meet you all and very excited to introduce this articulation agreement that we have with Dutchess Community College, as well as SUNY Purchase, or I should rather say Purchase College SUNY. So this presentation is going to probably last between 45 to 50 minutes, and we'll hopefully have some time for any questions. But really, we're going to go ahead and introduce a little more about Purchase College, a little more, as well as talking about our School of Humanities, especially our communications program, and also the nitty-gritty details about our articulation agreement and how you can qualify to be considered for it. So we will have some time for communications in the middle of our presentation and then also at the end. But just for a show of hands from those we can see, how many of you have heard of Purchase College SUNY? Okay, great. So we have a good number of students that are familiar with us, so that's exciting. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Can I get a thumbs up from anyone? Okay, cool. And it says welcome. All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So as some of you are probably aware already and familiar with us, Purchase College is a small liberal arts institution. We were founded in 1967 by then Governor Nelson Rockefeller, and we are part of the SUNY system as well, which is the largest public college comprehensive network in the nation. And so there's a lot of really great resources available to students. And we do have 64 colleges and universities within this comprehensive network. So it's pretty big. But a little bit more about Purchase is to know that we're a very unique institution, and that within the SUNY system, we are considered to be the cultural gem. The reason being is because we do have this reputation of being known as an art school, and I'm here to debunk that myth for you all. Again, just as a reminder that we are a liberal arts institution, but we do have really phenomenal conservatory style programs, and so that's kind of how our reputation perceives us. But fun fact to know is that we have approximately 56% of our students who are majoring within the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, so that's including communications, and we'll get into that in a bit. And then we have approximately 38% of our students who are majoring within one of our visual and performing art majors. And then we also have 6% of our students who are undeclared. So they're still exploring, their passions. And so they're able to take general education requirements to keep track in order to graduate within time. But the beauty about Purchase is that with our campus and our community is that we have our liberal arts majors, right? Liberal arts and science majors that we have, as well as our visual and performing art majors. And something that I'd also like to mention is that I'm actually an alum from Purchase, and I was a transfer student, so I was once in your shoes. And I graduated from our sociology program in 2018. And something that I really loved about Purchase is that I felt that you didn't have to sacrifice one passion to pursue the other. I feel that at Purchase, you have that capability to really kind of pursue a lot of your different interests in a really creative and scholarly way. So that's something that I really appreciate about Purchase here. So kind of giving you a little bit more information about what it's like as a community. As a friendly reminder, we are a small institution. So we have about 4,000 undergraduate students and about close to 100 or so graduate students. And so if when you get to that point where you're looking at different colleges and you're like, I want to know if we have housing available. We do have housing available for all transfer students. And so with that said, a lot of our students actually end up wanting to live on campus. So we do have residential halls as well as our apartment. We have 3 apartment complexes on our campus. But we also are pretty close by. We're about like an hour or so from Dutchess County, specifically Dutchess Community College, and about just kind of going back here, just to talk about this, we have about 2/3 of our students who are living on campus, whereas 1/3 of our students commute to Purchase. I was a commuter student, and what's really nice to know is that we do have a commuters lounge. So if you have to like have a space to kind of hang out in between classes, the commuter lounge is really great. It's actually very close by, or rather in the same building as one of our eateries. So if you need to go ahead and grab some lunch. So we are located in the lower Hudson Valley area. So we're located in Westchester County. And so as you can see on this picture, kind of giving you a better idea of where we're located, we're not too far from New York City, but just kind of giving you a better idea about what our campus looks like here. I want you all to kind of envision a circle. And so that's really what Purchase is like. And so when you zoom in, you're going to find that we have all of these academic buildings here. And we also have our residential halls primarily located over here. And then over on this side is where you're going to find one of our 3 apartment complexes on campus. So we are located on 500 acres of land. And as you can see, we are surrounded by all this beautiful greenery, which is really phenomenal. And that's something that's really important to us at Purchase. Is sustainability is very important as a community, and making sure that we're taking care of our campus and such. So kind of going back to this map here, if you're not familiar with White Plains, we are located in between White Plains as well as Port Chester. So these are 2 towns very close by to us, not even 10 minutes away from us. And what's really great is that at both of these locations, there's going to be a Metro North train station, and that can take you straight into New York City, which is only approximately a 35-minute ride. So really great to just kind of venture off, just to explore the city if you wanted to. We do have really cool events and field trips that we take our students to go and check out New York City, but also those internship and job opportunities, really, really popular. And students have the ability to do internships on campus, but also really nice to know that students can kind of venture off into New York City to do that. I apologize for all the noise in the background. They're mowing the lawn, and also the airplane is coming over a building. Also, another fun fact is that Purchase is right next to Westchester Airport. So that's kind of a common thing. You'll hear a lot of airplanes coming by. So we have this motto known as Think Wide Open, and it's really more than just a motto. It's really our culture here. And so what we have cultivated is an authentic space for students to really celebrate creativity, collaboration, and individuality. And so this is really more than just a motto to us. And we're really into an inclusive community as well. And so that's just kind of giving you a better idea of who we are as an institution. So talking about our academics, as I mentioned before, because we're such a small institution, student to faculty ratio is approximately 14:1. So you're going to have that individualized attention. I can definitely say that's something I appreciated when I was a student, that I was able to have really strong relationships with my professors. They knew my name, they understood my goals and my interests, and they were able to really work with me if I was struggling with any specific materials that I may have had a hard time comprehending. And also just the ability to collaborate with your fellow classmates as well, and just kind of really producing these really cool projects. Speaking of projects, all students, regardless of what they're majoring in, they have to complete something known as a senior project. And so this is an independent year-long project that can really manifest into different things. So it can be a research project, it can be an exhibit, it can be a short story or a short film. So there's a lot of really creative research that really comes out of this, or just projects. And so I know that Aviva, for example, can talk more in depth about what type of projects from our School of Humanities have really been produced from our senior project as well. And although it is an independent project, you will get assigned a faculty member to assist you and oversee your work. So if you have any specific questions or you need a little bit more guidance or just kind of like to bounce ideas off from each other, your faculty member is going to be there. And speaking of faculty, something I really enjoyed about being a student is that with our faculty members, they're not just there to teach you this material, but they're also working in the field. So they understand the history of the specific discipline that you're pursuing, understanding the current events, but also they can potentially end up helping you understand what the future trends will look like as well. So being a part of the SUNY system, all students have to receive a liberal arts education. And so what that really looks like is your general education requirements. So you're going to complete 30 credits in these particular areas. And so this is really important for all of you to understand as well. So if you took, for example, English 101, that would end up transferring over to purchase as college writing. And so that would fulfill your basic communications requirements. So it's just to be aware of the courses that you're going to be taking and the degree requirements you have to complete. But those courses, some of those courses that you're taking will end up fulfilling these core requirements. Okay, so we do have our School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, which we're really going to focus on. And within our School of Liberal Arts and Sciences are other schools. So it's kind of like this big umbrella that you can imagine. And so underneath the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, we do have our School of Natural and Social Sciences, the School of Humanities, as well as the School of Film and Media Studies. But with this specific presentation, we're going to really focus on the School of Humanities. And with that said, I'd like to pass this off to Aviva to have you all have a better understanding of what our School of Humanities is all about.
Hey, great. It's lovely to meet you all. I wish we could talk in person, but hopefully we will at some point in time. So as Sam said, I'm Aviva Taubenfeld. I am the director of the School of Humanities, but I think my strongest affiliation is that I've been at Purchase for 18 years, and I am a faculty member in literature, which, just to let you know, literature is what we call our English major. So if any of you are interested in English and you look for that major, will look like we don't have it, but that's what literature is at Purchase. So Sam has left up the slide with the School of Humanities, and as you can see here, there's a list of the majors in the School of Humanities: art history, communications, creative writing, history, journalism, language and culture, Latin American, Caribbean, and Latinx studies, literature, and philosophy. And if you go on the website, you can also see the many different minors that we offer. I just wanted to clarify that you may know right now that you're interested in communications and you want to stay in communications and you want to transfer to a four-year institution where you can finish a degree in that, and that's wonderful. You can certainly do that. But there's also a lot of flexibility. So if you're not sure, sorry, if you could just turn off the screen share, Sam. Are you able to do that? Perfect. Okay. So if you're not sure what it is that you want to major in, or if you come in with one interest and discover that you really want to pursue something else, you are not stuck, right? So you have a lot of flexibility. You can also, it's very common for students to double major. So maybe they'll do communications and literature, communications and history, or they can double major across school. So the school structure is very fluid. So you could major in biology and also major in communications. It's actually a wonderful combination. It allows you to do lots of different things. So again, if you're thinking of coming to Purchase, you will have a lot of that flexibility, and you don't need to know exactly what it is that you want to pursue. Almost all of the majors, with the exception of creative writing in the School of Humanities, can be accomplished within 2 years. Okay, so even if there isn't a written memorandum of understanding or the clearest, maybe instructions that you're getting from your school of what you can do as a transfer student at Purchase, feel free to come talk to us. We'd be happy to help advise you into any of those majors. And again, there is not one, except for creative writing, that takes longer than 2 years. Creative writing you can do in 3 years. And if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer.
There was one, I don't know if we saw, there was one question in the chat. I guess that's how Dana's going to be sending them over. So they,
Okay.
yeah, they expressed interest in film and media studies. Is that something that Megan's going to be able to touch more on once we? Okay,
Yes.
so I
Yeah,
just
I
want
can
to,
talk
okay,
about
so
that.
we'll Terrell back to that. My apologies for the interruption. All
Yes.
right, so we'll get back to
No,
that.
no problem. Actually, if you can stop sharing altogether, I think we don't need slides. Maybe it's better to just see us.
Yes.
Is that better? Okay, great.
Hey, wait, can you hear us? Can you hear us on this one?
Yes, we hear
You can
you.
hear us? Yes?
Yeah,
Oh,
do you have
I
a
know, we
question?
can't hear you. Well, we're communications majors and we have a very film-oriented major at Dutchess. So when you're going over the things in the humanities, we would be much more interested in hearing about how you define communications in humanities and how you define journalism. I have a couple students here who are very interested in sports journalism. Are those things that they could pursue under the umbrella of humanities at Purchase?
Okay,
So
so
we would not be English majors or literature majors because they're already doing a major here. They've already done their 30 gen eds here. So what we're interested in is what are the majors, the two majors that Dutchess students from communications have transferred into are cinema studies and the one that's media, society and something. And I don't know if you guys have restructured a little, would be interested in hearing specifically what's relevant to our major. Okay, I'm
Okay.
gonna stop this one and go back to the.
Okay, great. So maybe what we'll do is I can turn it over to Megan and she can talk more specifically about the communications major. And she and I can also fill in about journalism. So the cinema studies and
Since your humanities and communications is in there, we would love to hear about your area addressing communications for our major.
Okay. So within humanities, communications has moved to humanities in the past year. We also have journalism, and they have slightly different focuses. And I think probably Megan can speak to the communications focus the best. Journalism does have broadcast classes as well as print classes, right? And most students do both within journalism. But there is a stronger emphasis, I think, on the writing. But again, there are broadcast classes and there are some sports classes, sports journalism classes, but there isn't a specific track in that, just to make that clear. There also is the School of Film and Media Studies, where students can minor in video production, which is a possibility that you can cross with communications or journalism or really any other major. And we can talk more about that as well. So Megan, why don't you go ahead and talk about communications, since this is clearly the primary interest.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I know Sam introduced me. I'm Megan Rossman. I'm the chair of communications. I'm also a filmmaker. So I actually make documentaries. That's primarily what I do. I worked as a multimedia journalist at the Washington Post and got to cover like lots of different things. And I'm so happy to talk to you all today a little bit about the major, and I can try to also address the differences between communication and journalism. So essentially, when you come in to communication, you take a couple classes that are, baseline classes, and then you choose a concentration. So you can concentrate in public relations, television production, or advertising. And within that, I am most focused on the television side of the major. We have a television studio on campus. We have a lot of fun. I'm teaching a class right now where we're in there every week making a show. And next year, we're going to start offering an advanced class in which we actually produce a weekly television show. So for the students that are really interested in film production, if you're interested in television, then that could potentially be a good fit. I also love to tell students that there are lots of jobs in television. So it's something we often see our students interning in. I had an alumni back in my class this semester who is working full-time as a director at her local television station in Utica, New York. In terms of the other areas, so, public relations is very much linked to thinking about, public promotion of something, whereas advertising is sort of paid promotion. So if we think about public relations, there's a press release that you're writing and you're hoping to get media coverage of something in the news. Whereas advertising is just making, advertisements, writing advertisements and getting them out there in the world. In terms of the other classes, you take some basic classes. You might have already taken the Intro to Communication class at Dutchess. You take a class called Strategic Message Design that's all about messages in society and sort of marketing and how that plays out. So we try to give you a baseline understanding of the field, and then you have time to take these electives and pick the concentration. In terms of the differences between communication and journalism, journalism is really a program built around journalistic writing and reporting. So you will do some reporting in communication classes. So for example, we have a class that's Intro to Media Writing. And within that, we actually go through all of the areas and talk about how to write for each of them. But journalism is focused exclusively on, the journalistic style of writing and then reporting. So you can take classes in video production there as well, but they're documentary based. It's going to be, thinking about how are we reporting the news, what's going on perhaps on campus, how are we sharing that out? Whereas communication is a bit more broad than that. While we do teach the reporting skills, we also have space for students to work on different things. So perhaps they want to do a project that's more marketing video based, or perhaps they want to do something that even I've had students who minor in playwriting, screenwriting, and they're doing screenwriting and they bring a script into the television class and want to actually produce it and make it happen for their final project. So that's the kind of overlap in terms of there's production skills in both areas, strong production skills and writing skills. But I think communication has a bit of a broader reach in terms of thinking about the different applications for those production skills. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Yeah, that was really great, Megan. Thank you. You're very much in the area that we are. We have a huge television studio. So these are things we're looking at. Now we have one big question at Dutchess, which is the Film Conservatory at Purchase has never allowed us to transfer in. It's a non-transfer program. Is that still true?
So if a student was to transfer, yes.
Can you
So
hear
the short answer is yes. Students would be able to transfer up to, I believe, 36 general education requirements or those core credits, but they would have to be enrolled in the program for 4 full years.
But as Aviva mentioned earlier, we have a film minor, and a lot of students take that, and that way you're taking classes, you have the experience in it. I know that minor very well because tons of communication students do that minor. So you take, baseline classes, you take a screenwriting class, you take a class in documentary, you take a class in narrative film, and then they have sort of a mini senior project, which is a short film production. So you have to, take everything you've learned in the minor and make a short film with the aim of, getting it into film festivals and getting it out there. It's a very popular minor and something that I know the students that I have that have minored in that have gotten a lot out of it.
I'll just add just a specific class that I know is also really popular that is newer,
Okay,
and that's podcasting. I don't know if you can, we have podcasting is a very popular course that is of interest to lots of communications, journalism, and film majors as well.
Okay, I've got a couple questions. Number one, would any of the core classes, such as like any of the core classes,
Math, English, science.
would they transfer
Yes.
over? But would any of the contact design things, they transfer?
Did
So
you hear that?
The question is, would the communication classes you've taken also transfer over?
Yeah.
And the answer is like, yes, they would. They'd count in. it might not, I don't know exactly, Sam, if you could speak to more what the agreement is, but yes, they would
I
transfer.
could pull it up if it was helpful, but yes, to kind of add to that, the articulation agreement is designed to use our comm program, the same one you're all registered for right now, the same 2-year plan is designed to have all of the credits transferred to purchase. So the classes you're taking now will transfer to purchase. Now, depending on the program, that's where I I will, push it over to Megan, Samantha, and Aviva.
Yeah, and I would say I'm very flexible. We try to take, if there's a class that you're supposed to take at purchase and it's similar to one you've taken, we will slot that in. If it's a class that we don't offer, we would put it into a concentration, so it would still count within the credits.
Okay, I have one more big question. When I heard that you have a film and media, I'm sorry, I have to talk with this thing on my face, a film and media studies school within the School of Liberal Arts, that's when I was like, oh no, we want to hear more about that. But then when Megan started talking, I felt like, wow, everything we want to do, we could definitely do in communications and journalism within the humanities branch. So what else is happening in the film and media studies school that you don't offer in humanities?
So some of these differences are really structural, where a program is, right? So when there was discussion of where to move communication, it really could go into film and media studies or humanities because of its close connection with journalism, right? So it's, in some ways, it helps not to think of the schools in quite such a rigid way, because like I was saying before, you can have multiple majors or minors across schools. So film and media studies, if you want, we can certainly invite the director of that school to come and speak to you. But they house the film BFA program, which is what you asked about before, cinema studies, playwriting, and screenwriting, and this Media Society and the Arts, which is more of an analytical than a hands-on program. Sam, did I miss anything from their program?
No, I think you got everything, and we do have minors, as Megan mentioned. We have the film and video production minor. We also have playwriting, and screenwriting. Media studies is also a minor that we have. So yeah, we have a good amount of programs to offer. You got everything, Aviva. Thanks.
Okay, but again, try and, if you can, it's sort of hard to imagine because we call ourselves the school of this, the school of that, but there's really a lot of flexibility, particularly with these programs, and you can cross over, with the exception, as was already stated, of the film BFA program.
Well, one other thing also, as we think about crossover that I'll mention, a lot of the classes in communication will count for the film minor, and vice versa. Like, that's the kind of overlap we're seeing. So our intro to video class will count for the film minor in the same way that their intro to digital filmmaking class will count for the comm major. Also, some of the more advanced production classes, such as documentary, documentary production, will count for both, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
I can see a hand in the corner. All right.
So basically, I checked the pricing and it's about the same price as SUNY Pulse, am I correct?
Sorry, can you say that one more time, please? I was having a hard time.
The pricing is similar to, say, like SUNY Pulse.
Okay,
So it just confirm if I'm hearing you right. I think you're asking about the tuition. Tuition? Okay. So I think he's comparing what is the relative tuition compared to, say, New Paltz, which is the local school.
Sure. So if a student wanted to live on campus, this is before any financial aid is applied. So with tuition, fees, room and board and everything, for yearly, that's going to be $23,491. So again, that's before any financial aid is applied to it. So per semester, if you break it down, it's going to be $11,745.50. But if we have any students that are interested in commuting, and all you really have to focus on are the tuition and the fees. And so the yearly cost of that, again, this is before financial aid, it's going to be $8,953. So that's just under $9,000. And so if you're going to, of course, apply for financial aid, making sure that you apply for FAFSA, as well as the tuition assistance program, TAP is what it's commonly known as, and that is the state, a New York State grant. So you can possibly qualify for that as well.
And just to add, because I saw the way the question was phrased in the chat, is tuition similar or the same as SUNY New Paltz? So just to clarify, tuition is set by SUNY, right? So all of the four-year colleges have the same tuition.
Thanks, Aviva. Do we have any other questions?
One question I would have is, could you speak a little bit more to the internship opportunities you've seen students have while in the SUNY colleges is set locally? Oh, I don't, yeah, I'm not sure about where the tuition is set specifically, but going back to the question, could you talk a little bit more about the internship opportunities you've seen people have during their undergrad?
Sure. So we encourage students to do internships, and it's not required, but it is strongly encouraged. And we've had students do all sorts of stuff. So in terms of television, I've had students intern on different shows that are local, like the Maury Povich show or the Rachel Ray show. I've had students intern at like the local news station in the White Plains area. I've also had students intern at nonprofits doing media production. So one of my students did an internship at the Born This Way Foundation, which is Lady Gaga's nonprofit. So there's a lot of different options. Generally, I'm also try to take my students on a lot of field trips. So Aviva mentioned the podcasting class, like we try to take students to WNYC so they can make connections, CNN. Of course, with the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that in person, but we still do our best to try to ensure students are hearing from different people and getting exposure so that they can start thinking about those different career paths. And within that, we also, I should say, we have like a whole career development center on campus and a network. We have like this really cool mentoring network that they just started. So if you're a current student, you can get paired with an alumni in your field that can, you know, help mentor you and think about different jobs that you might be interested in.
And then the last question I had, and you touched on this a little bit, about the different concentrations, TV production, public relations, and advertising. So assuming a student is following the requirements for the articulation agreement, would it transfer equally to either of the concentrations, or is the way the articulation agreement designed, does it lean more towards TV production, seeing as that's what most of the classes are that we have here?
So I think I can answer that for you. So in our articulation agreement, of course, it's going to display the degree requirements that students have to complete to pursue their associate's degree in communication media arts. So there's an actual table showing you which courses you can take within the degree and how it transfers over to Purchase College. But if the student wanted to take any specific courses that can transfer into those concentrations, in our articulation agreement, it's actually going to list several courses for each concentration. So one for marketing, for public relations, excuse me, as well as TV production. So there are those custom courses that you do have to take if you wanted to definitely transfer into that specific concentration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions, Dana, from the class, or any other information that would be?
I think we're good.
Alrighty. Perfect.
I have 5 minutes left of class, so I kind of want to use it to talk to them and sort of I thought this was very, very helpful. So thank you so much I will email you guys just to say thank you again.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you. Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you for that. All right. so
Yeah,
I'm gonna
thank
close
you.
out.
No problem.